However, I would like to use this opportunity. We have been getting many letters from the public on this issue, all in opposition. This is not an issue that is before the town board at the moment. It possibly could be at some time in the future, but now we have really no jurisdiction at the present day. This is something that is with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. In fact, what we have done, because of the input that we've received from the public, we have sent a letter, this one out 2 days ago, to the regional director of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Her name is Carrie Mead Gallagher. And I would like to, because there are so many of you on this issue here today, I'm going to read this letter to you. On behalf of the town board, the town of Islip, I write to express our grave concerns about the proposed green rail transfer project currently under consideration by the New York Department of Environmental Conservation. The town has been following the recent progress of this application, and the questions about the value of the proposal and the possible negative effects on the surrounding community continue to remain unanswered. The department's failure to conduct a coordinated review during the CEQA process contributed to the lack of information needed to answer the residents' very legitimate questions. The town's concerns include, but are not limited to, the fact that the environmental impact study was not done with the input of other involved agencies, such as the towns of Islip and Brookhaven. Furthermore, the permit seemed to be originally proceeding without the state DEC notifying governmental entities or affected residents. In fact, as you are aware, the public comment portion of the application process had been closed without residents being informed that it ever happened, until Assemblyman Al Graff and Senators Tom Croce and Phil Boyle asked the state to reopen the comment period. This is an unprecedented project on Long Island, and it is being undertaken in an area with hundreds of residents in near proximity to its location. Whether the project has any future value to the region or not, this location is not well suited for the long term. To allow it to go forward on a short-term basis is a disservice to the community and serves no useful long-term purpose. The department should take the aforesaid concerns and those expressed by the nearby residents into consideration and should find a better suited location for a project of this kind. And this is signed by myself as a supervisor and each of the town board members sitting here before you today. So I think it is clearly, without question, where we stand on this issue. That we have a number of people who have signed to speak up on this and other subjects. You have 3 minutes. We have a timer. When the timer is short, that's it, okay? And again, it is the public comment portion. It is your time as the public to comment, so you will not be interrupted. It's not a question and answer. You will have your full 3 minutes. The first speaker is David Perry.
Thank you. My name is David Perry. I'm the chairman of the Green Rail Project Committee at the Colony at Holbrook. I'm also a professional engineer. I'll make my comments a little brief with the introduction of the letter that you provided. I just want to talk a little bit about the coordinated review and the purpose thereof. If the DEC does not provide a coordinated review, then each agency that has a permitting activity has to conduct their own review independently. So we ask that the town independently, if they're not afforded the coordinated review, conduct their own independent environmental study on this project. If the DEC does not do that, if the town does not do that, we believe it's going to be an Article 78 challenge that will end up costing everybody time and money, so we ask that you do that immediately. The second point is the DEC's determination that there's no significant environmental impact and giving a negative declaration on this project. That's absurd. It reeks of incompetence of the DEC and corruption, or both. Neither is good. There are multiple potential significant environmental impacts, including fugitive air emissions, noise emissions, traffic impacts, visual impacts, odor impacts, reduction in property values, avian impacts, rodent infestation, groundwater and stormwater impacts, and existing ground contamination on the site from unpermitted and alleged illegal activities currently being done on that site. The Attorney General has been contacted by numerous parties to look into these activities. Because of these issues, there's no reasonable basis for the DEC to have issued a negative declaration. And if the town independently conducts their own environmental study, we believe that you'll come to the same conclusion that there are environmental impacts. My third point, as the supervisor mentioned, the secret process allows the public to be involved in this process and have input to the studies that will be done, the coordination of the environmental impact statement and comments on the conclusions thereof. If this is not done, it goes against the secret process. It doesn't allow the public to be involved in that process. Finally, I'm going to ask the question, why? Why was a transparent process circumvented if there's truly no environmental impacts for this project? Why can't the applicant demonstrate to the community and the involved agencies that there are no impacts? I'll tell you why. It's because there are impacts to this project. There are significant impacts, and if they were studied adequately, the project as proposed would be stopped, and the current activities going on at that site would be stopped. There's no doubt about it. So I respectfully request the town first insist on a coordinated review, as you have. If they do not, we insist that you conduct your own independent environmental study. Go through the secret process yourself. You're obligated to do that. We also ask that you immediately initiate legislation absolutely banning this type of project from being near a residential neighborhood. And finally, we ask that you immediately send your enforcement agencies and personnel to the site to see what's going on. Unfortunately, I was told you do not have the means to show video. I do have a video I'm going to submit for the record. I'm sorry that we can't see your reactions as you watch this. But when you watch this, you'll see what's going on in your town and in our community. And I believe you'll come to the conclusion that somebody's got to get out there and stop it. Thank you very much.
Greg Pepe.
Greg Pepe, 127 St. Mark's Lane, Islip, New York. I'm here today to address the misleading and distortion to the facts of the building condition survey report done by H2M Architects and Engineers, who performed a visual inspection at 190 Carlton Avenue, East Islip, on August 2nd, 2000, at the request of the exchange owners of the Islips. At the November 10, 2016 board meeting, Mr. Statement stated, according to the H2M Architects and Engineers report, there was no cost-effective way to resolve these condition errors and expand the building. At the November 22nd, 2016 board meeting, Mr. Florence stated, I want to make this public for the first time that for the past 16 years, public officials knew about the problems with the building, but simply kicked the can down the road and kept this from the public. It's putting our first responders at risk. According to the H2M engineering report, this building does not meet New York State building code and is an unsafe building. So on December 15th, I went to the building department and said, we are being told by Councilman Fleury that according to a 16-year-old inspection report by the H2M company, it states that the building at 180 Carlton Avenue East Islip does not meet New York State building code. It's an unsafe building, and it would be cheaper to tear it down than to repair it. So they replied, why would we say that? The only code we go by is that of New York State. So I asked, does this building meet that code? Upon a record search of the building's history, the only thing on file is a valid certificate of compliance, certificate of occupancy, issued on September 28, 2004, just 12 years ago, granting legal occupancy to the exchange ambulance of the Islips. So at this time, I want to present to the board the copies of the certificate of occupancy.
Retreat to the next step, please.
Okay, so I want to just reflect on something. If we go on to the state codes from the state, we're going to take it to a state level. In order to occupy a building, whether it be residential or commercial in New York State, you need one of two things: certificate of compliance, certificate of occupancy. Now, they're basing this on a 2000 report that was made, right? This was issued, or actually, they shouldn't have been in that building, frankly, until 2004. So they were illegally in that building. Because in New York State, you can only occupy a building if you have a valid CFO. You don't even get banking financing if you want to put a mortgage on a building, if you didn't present one of those two documents, okay? So, to spend $6.5 million, and I want to reflect back to the H2M report because this is very important. The only finding, this is on page 4 of 7 by the H2M group, and this is based on our findings. The observations made during our visual inspection, we conclude that the roof structure does not meet requirements of New York State Building Code. Now we're talking about the roof. The remainder of the building is in sound structural condition with the following qualifications. In other words, if they would correct steps 1 through 9 at a cost of $165,000, it would comply. But this is irrelevant. What I presented there is the ace of diamonds. This is a joker card.
Thank you. Next speaker, Rob Stadelman.
Two folders. Two folders for hand.
Thank you very much.
Right. All right, Robert Solomon, Vice President, Exchange Ambulance, 190 Carlton Avenue, East Islip. Good morning, Supervisor Carpenter and members of the Islip Town Council. The past few months, we've heard me speak here several times regarding the state of Exchange Ambulance's current facility and our need for a new facility. During this time, I've become aware of several pieces of either incomplete or incorrect information being circulated. I'd like to take a moment to set the record straight. Exchange Ambulance Corp. of the Islip is a volunteer IRS 501c3 nonprofit organization which provides primary EMS coverage to the towns of East Islip, Parish, and Great River under a contract with the town of Islip. That's you folks. All of our officers, chiefs, board of directors, myself included, are unpaid. We do not bill our patients for our services. Our present facility and the property is located on or owned by the town of Islip, constructed by the town of Islip in 1990. Exchange Ambulance leases this facility from the town as part of our annual contract. All routine maintenance, such as cleaning, painting, landscaping, other minor repairs, have always been performed by Exchange Ambulance from our annual operating budget. Over the past 26 years, Exchange Ambulance has also performed major repairs to the facility, including replacing items such as the roof, backup generator, electrical distribution system, boiler, AC units, and even repaved the parking lot. Again, all this was covered from our routine annual operating budget. All required or recommended maintenance has always been completed. The current structural issues with our facility are not due to any lack of required maintenance nor any abuse or misuse. They are due to improper initial construction of the facility, which is not to code, causing excessive loads to be placed in the exterior walls. This information is an engineer report from 2000, which was provided to the Town Council previously and again today. On October 2016, we received a letter from the engineer clarifying some questions that Councilman Flodring had regarding the 2000 report. The copy is provided to you today. No vehicle has ever struck our facility and caused structural damage. Structural issues are present in the office portion of the facility. The apparatus bays are structurally sound and will be reused as part of our proposed new facility. Both Exchange Ambulance's annual operating budget and any funds collected for the new facility, if the Town Council should decide to approve construction of said facility, are obtained by property taxes only from the residents of our district, not the entire town of Islip. Exchange Ambulance is listed as a separate line item on your tax bill if your home's within our district. property tax bill for Exchange Animals for a home in our district assessed at $400,000 in 2016, last year, was just $74.40 for the year, to $6.20 a month, or 21 cents a day. In 2016, Exchange Animals responded to 3,042 calls, 3,042 calls. When our present facility was designed 26 years ago, we were handling 1,500 calls a year. The call volume has doubled, something that was never anticipated. And I will leave you with these last few facts. In 2016, our volunteers provided 24,793 hours of actual shift coverage, covered 54 standbys for special events in our community at no charge, and attended 60 meetings, held 269 committee meetings, did 489 separate trainings, lasting 2,992 hours, all unpaid. Thank you for your time.
Next speaker, Fran Lenati. And on deck is Myra Levine.
Fran Minotti, 176 Colony Drive, Holbrook, New York. I'm here to hand deliver letters from concerned homeowners in the Holbrook-Holtzville area on the Green Rail project. If you could please accept them and know how concerned we are for our health in our area.
That we do, and we share your concern. Thank you very much, Fran.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the council and chairman. My name is Myra Levine. I live at 147 Colony Drive in Holbrook. That's a beautiful little community off Furrows Road, and on the other side of Furrows Road is everyone's worst nightmare. It's for years and years and years been a problem and an environmental disaster for our communities. And approximately in the year 2000, they proceeded to build a mountain of rock dust that they were paid to take away from New York City as they were drilling the water tunnel there. And they dumped it across the road from our homes, and due to the wind blowing the dust around and the rain creating tremendous flooding from this mountain, it was just a disaster in our communities. We raised a storm, we organized, and through that organization, we brought the light to shine on what was going on in that piece of property there. The Attorney General of New York State investigated it and found, amongst other things, that the owners of that property were conspiring to run an asphalt cartel, price fixing, and they were not only struck from the bidding rolls for county and town work, but a couple of them ended up sitting in jail for their crimes which they were legally and fairly convicted of committing. The same bad actors are involved in this Green Rail project. So let me start out by saying I am very gratified to hear you read the letter that you generated and sent to the DEC, and I appreciate that, and I'm sure that everybody in our communities also appreciates that. But I would like to go one step further. Our protection against predators like that industry, is principally the town zoning code. That property is not zoned for the kind of application that this Green Rail project is proposing. The DEC does not have any rights to override or step over the town zoning code. Town zoning code is the primary protection that the town has, and it's the sole protection that the homeowners have, the zoning code. So we beg you, we implore you, enforce that town zoning code. That is our protection. Thank you very much for
Good afternoon, Town of Islip Board. Little. And I shrunk. Good afternoon, Angie Carpenter, Supervisor, and the Town Board. In November, when some of you were running for election, we promised that you would listen to us, that you would hear us, that you would help us if we get in trouble. I know that you have a lot of work on your hands, but what we are asking for is that you uphold and enforce the municipal land use and zoning regulations. That is the first place we go to. That business is in the town of Islip, and we don't want to have a garbage transfer place right in our neighborhood. It's unfair to do this to us. And we will not be moved in our effort for our health, our environment, and our homes. We will remember those who stood by us and those who didn't. We ask you to do your job. Just do your job and make sure that that industry does not have a free range to do whatever they want, whether it's mining, whether it's chopping down trees, whether it's bringing that garbage transfer thing. It is not allowed. It is against the law. Do your job.
Judy Franco on deck.
That's a tough act to follow.
Must be some conversations at home in the evening.
There are people here who have a lot more important things and better things to say about this, but first of all, the only thing green about this green rail project is the money that these people expect to make out of it.
Wait. Just put it right here.
I'm sorry.
So if you would, just repeat your name and address, I'll start the time again.
Lou Azara, 23 Gainsborough Road, Holbrook, New York. Okay, I was reading their proposal and I handed out 3 pages from their proposal because I get hung up on this every time I go through it. And what it's all about is the transfer station has an agreement with, or wants an agreement with New York Atlantic Railway to transfer their freight, to transfer the waste. Now, New York Atlantic Railway specifically says a minimum of 10 cars. If you look at, and that's part of their proposal. If you look at Appendix 6, which is part of their proposal, they say that they will be shipping 5 cars, that they'll be able to process 5 cars a day for the first month. What does that mean? It means they'll have 5 cars processed, sitting there in Holbrook with waste overnight. The next day they'll process another 5 so that they have a total of 10 to ship into the city. 5 cars overnight, not a big deal. But when you start looking at that over a month span, now you have 30,000 tons of waste sitting there for 15 days. It's not a good situation. It becomes a waste storage facility, not a waste transfer facility. Basically, what happens with that waste when it's sitting there is it attracts vermin, it attracts other types of pests, and one of the things that it's going to attract is seagulls. And seagulls will wind up becoming a problem for Islip MacArthur Airport. Small, but a real problem because the airplanes, as they approach to land at Islip MacArthur, come right in over this spot. So now you're introducing something that can impact the airlines. Now, if you're trying to expand MacArthur Airport and you've got seagulls and other birds out there attracted to this garbage, it's also going to impact what you're doing at the airport. Taken by itself, this is a small project. On one level, it's a small project. When you look at it in terms of what it's going to do to you folks and the town in general, it becomes a big project. And I also want to thank Councilwoman Mullen for being at our meeting on Wednesday, and that's pretty much all I have to say.
Judy Frankel. Next speaker will be Sheila Edmondson.
Good afternoon. My name is Judy Frankel. I live at 26 Hampshire Court. I live at 26 Hampshire Court and Holbrook. I was very pleased to see your letter to the DEC dated today, January 24th, and regarding the Green Rail project. My question is, why did it take so long for the town to respond to this issue, since it has been in the works for almost 5 years? And also, as Mr. Levine had pointed out, the town has laws and regulations that govern things like that. And why can't the town take it upon themselves to enforce these regulations and laws for illegal things that are going on and that are not good for the community? We're very concerned about our health and also the property values. And it's not only just my community, it's all the community of Holbrook. It's a lovely place, and it's not going to stay that way with this disgusting project in the works. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. Sheila Edmondson, 223 Singing Wood, New England Village. Sorry. I have nothing prepared, so I can only talk from my heart. I've lived in New England Village for over 35 years, closer to 40. In the 80s, Northville had a gasoline leak that went into the ground over years. Over 1 million gallons of gasoline is up underneath that. Now you're talking about putting, not you, but they're talking about putting a dump on top of that. In the late 80s, there was an ash dump that was proposed for that's almost the same area, and we fought it. It was called Dump to Dump. We went up to Albany and lobbied with Bianchi and Trunzo. Because of that, and because of the action that the residents of Holbrook took, there is now a law saying no ash dump could be put within 1,000 yards of a school. Right now, where that the ash dump was supposed to be is King's, next to Tamarack High School, elementary school, I'm sorry. I'm asking you to keep your eye on what's going on, just like we are. Because at some point, somebody's going to try and sneak something through. And we don't want any surprises. I want to thank you for your letter. I want to thank you for letting us speak. But please, keep your eye on this prize. Thank you.
Re-election. I'm passing through.
Okay, thank you, Earl. Christine Giannis. And next will be Mary Beth Erman.
My name is Christina Yaddis. I'm president of Waverly Park in Holtzville, the condominiums. My concern Mrs. Carpenter, is the fact that we were not aware of it at all. What's going on with this Green Rail project. We were just found out Sunday when I was out and a business owner happened to tell me. That upsets me. That upsets me as a homeowner. It upsets me for all my 287 homeowners in our community. Just so that you're aware, we live very close to the Winter Brothers recyclable plant. We had dealt for years with the ongoing smell there and the rodents that come from there to our community. When we call the DNC, they tell us, please don't, when we drive by, why don't you just keep your windows closed? Or maybe it is the sewage plant in our community or the one that borders us, Victoria Gardens. So now what we have done is we have put on our newsletter notifying them, our homeowners, a number to call. And with that, we also call Lindsay's office and he immediately takes care of it. My biggest concern here as a taxpayer, as a resident, as that we were never notified from the town that there was going on. Because you are our elected board members to represent our community. So we should have been made aware by the town of Islip that this was going to happen. And I'm asking that we kept abreast of what's going on, that the town please does their own investigation about this for the safety of our community and the safety of the children. I also implore you to drive over there on Furrows Road and take a look at what's going on. Because it is not beautiful what we see. We have beautiful community in the colony, New England Village, even Victoria Gardens is beautifully taken care of, Waverly Park, but look what runs along the train station. Look at the mess that's over there that we have to deal with. Please, I implore you to do your own investigation and keep us abreast of this because we're not going to go away.
Mary Beth Firmino.
Hello, I'm Mary Beth Marino. Mary Beth Marino, 20 Wyndham Lane, Holbrook. I'm going to read to you a portion of a letter from the lawyer of the Green Rail transfer to New York State, DC. This is dated from April 16th I'm sorry. This is a portion of a letter from the lawyer of the Green Rail transfer to the New York State DEC. This is from April 16th, 2015. We have had discussions with Eric Hoffmeister, Commissioner of the Environmental Control for the town of Islip. Mr. Hoffmeister confirmed that he has met with Jim Gladys and Jim Heel from Cashing Associates Engineers. They're working for Cushing and Associates is the engineers for the Green Rail Trail. On multiple occasions, we've met and have discussed the proposed project. Mr. Hoffmeister also confirmed that he has been fully briefed by these GRT engineers on the proposed project and correctly pointed out that Islip will not play any role in the project. The proposed project is simply located within the town. Mr. Hoffmeister agreed to consult with the town planner and report back. As of the writing, he has not received a confirmation. What I find disturbing about this is the two engineers for the Green Rail transfer. One is Jim Gladys and the other is Jim Heil. 7 months after this was written, Jim Heil became the town of Islip's Commissioner of Environmental Control. 7 months later, you may not have known, I don't know if that's true, but you may not have known. But he knows, he knew all along. It's corrupt. I wrote down that this is highly suspicious. I wanted to say that, but it's not. It is corrupt. These people are powerful, and he was placed in that position for such a time as this. Thank you for your time.
lower.
I'll pass.
Thank you. Yelsina Day.
Happy New Year. Yelsina A. Day, 27 East Cherry Street, Central Islip, New York, 11722. I still come before you again concerning Roberto Clemente Park. Okay? You, as our elected officials, keep saying that there's transparency. But there is no transparency when it comes down to Brentwood, Central Islip, and North Bay Shore. We need to know who are the members on this committee that is going to be redeveloping Roberto Clemente Park. Because if anybody should be on it, it should be a person from each one of the communities so that they can have an input. And as yet, you have not given me that answer. And I know today you're not going to give me the answer either. But I'm going to be here as long as God gives me strength. I'm going to be here at every board meeting until we find out exactly what's going on. Now, the other thing that is really disturbing was I spoke to you about the Laurel Avenue and Cypress Street Park that you said is not a park. It doesn't belong to the town of Islip. Well, the sign is still there with Angie Carpenter, supervisor, Laurel Avenue, Cypress Street Park. Okay? Yes, that sign is there. Okay? I drive by it every day because I live right around the corner. Supposedly, that land was sold, and we had requested to know who the property was sold to so that we can actually request to have veterans' homes put on that property. Instead of putting another business or something stupid on it. Now, the other thing that is trifling to me, again, is East Cherry Street. We've come before you and come before you and come before you about the speeding. I know my time is up, it won't take me that long. But there has to be some kind of sign put on that street because at the end of the street is the elementary school and there needs to be a sign put up saying 20 miles or 25 miles per hour. We didn't have too many animals killed and too many kids dodging cars. Thank you.
Thank you. Yelsina, I'm going to stay because at the end of the public portion, the commissioner is giving an update on Clemente. Anne Marie LaRosa. And that next speaker will be Royetta Walston.
Good afternoon, Anne Marie LaRosa, 49 Sylvia Drive, West Islip, New York. I'm here today to follow up on last month's town board meeting, which I was not attending, however, did see it on, I guess, camera, TV. A subject that was brought up at that board meeting referred to one of the school properties in West Islip School Board Vice President,
Steve Geller, I'm the West Islip School Board President.
And
I also have a card in a little later.
And so I know this is not a question and answer, however, the opportunity, occurs to me that a lot of things were stated that were just not true by somebody who we've never met and have never had conversation with. On further investigation, it seems to be that there's also a lot of social media being posted by this person who is now coming to town board, claiming that the school district is doing untoward things to our taxpayers by leasing one of our closed school buildings to educational purposes. creating revenue for the school district and making allegations that are simply false. So I guess really what, my purpose here today, and I know many of you, we've worked on many different projects together in West Islip and around town, is that simply, the West Islip School Board is at your disposal. If you have any real questions for us regarding that property, I just want to add that the Westbrook Elementary School, which is the one that was being spoken about, was closed down. We did repurpose it for the community. Our school district attorney came before this board, or the planning board,
There was an open Rochester hearing in this room before the planning board.
and talked about what we were going to do before anything was done. The town of Islip agreed that we would be able to use that building to repurpose it for the community. Anything to add, Mr. Gallo?
I just add that, like we said before, all the hearings were done in public. All requirements and requests that were made by the planning board, by the town, by state education department were met in complete and open fashion. And as Ms. Marissa says, if anybody has any questions, we'd be more than happy to respond.
And I would just like to add that there are absolutely no conflict of interest between myself and anything that is currently being housed in Westbrook Elementary School. And I would just like to add, I believe that ultimately this goes back to political warring on your own board, and we won't be dragged into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Marietta Alston?
Good afternoon. My name is Royetta Alston, R-O-Y-E-T-T-A, Alston, A-L-S-T-O-N. My address is 23 East Cherry Street, East Islip. I'm here to follow up about the trap, the new and return of the cats. And also, I'm here, town of Islip, see the anybody, help the seniors with the rent control, put a gap on it so they don't have to pay high rent in apartments, and also renting houses for them. And that's it.
Thank you, Marietta. John Urquhart? Followed by Sheila Keller.
Is Debbie down here?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good afternoon. This is not my first time addressing this body.
David, address, please.
Don Urquhart, 175 Colony Drive, Holbrook. This is not my first time here discussing this very body about this very property. The project is new. It's an extension of ongoing activities on those parcels. For members of the community that are here today, some might think that this is simply about a single project. It is not. It is about policy. This is a question of policy in the town of Islip. And what we know is that so far, the policy of the town of Islip has been willful ignorance and no enforcement. Those parcels were purchased in 1962. Industrial 1 was their zoning. They should have no outdoor storage of industrial materials or vehicles. But over the years, they were able to push and push and push. The town calls it grandfathering, but technically it's authorization for continuing non-conforming use. And somehow, for those of you that had the benefit of seeing the aerial images, you saw how what began as an authorization to have 1/2 of an acre of outdoor storage ravaged over 20 acres, ravaged, all under the watchful eye of the town of Islip. And what's interesting to know is that the one parcel on that entire stretch that is not ravaged, that has any trees on it, belongs to the town of Islip. So this literally occurred in the Islip town's backyard. I'm here to tell you that we need more than letters and platitudes. We need policy. We need enforcement. This notion somehow that the town of Islip is just unable to do anything is false. Environmental Control Law Statute 27-0711 makes very clear, state statute does not supersede municipal land use and zoning regulations. You share concurrent jurisdiction. I spoke before this body, I provided evidence, I provided photographs, documents about what was going on, about operators that were banned in New York City, dumping suspicious waste on those parcels. I've heard nothing from this town, nothing. Now, we just learned about this relationship between the engineer that pushed this policy forward, this project proposal forward, and now that individual has a seat at the senior level of this township government, and his predecessor now works for Senator Croce. So, here we are today, humbly beseeching this entity to take enforcement action that it is well authorized to take, but has chosen not to. Willful ignorance. You have been informed over and over again about what goes on those parcels, and you've chosen to take no action. Brookhaven Rail Terminal, multi-million-dollar facility. The town of Brookhaven made sure that they could not have solid waste there, and the closest house there is a quarter mile away. We have homes within 300 feet. I'm going to close with this statement, that the seal that I look at up there, that Latin motto, Vide, sed qui vide, translates into trust. But look out in whom? And that was designed in 1883 by Mr. A.G. Thompson. It's as if Mr. Thompson saw this coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shelley Keller, 175 Colony Drive, Holbrook. I'm here to say I'm positive about the Green Rail project. I'm positive that given their history, these operators will turn what's supposed to be green into a disaster. I'm positive that these operators will take every opportunity to fill their illegally mined parcels with garbage and turn them into a landfill. I'm positive with their history, the DEC's monitoring of this project will allow that dumping to go on for decades before it's noticed. I'm positive that the town of Islip will continue its long tradition of evading its enforcement obligation. I'm positive that some who sit before us today care little about their constituents and only concern themselves with dollars and votes. I'm positive that this community has had enough of Islip's business and politics as usual, and that we are going to focus your attention. Finally, I'm positive that, except for those who will profit from this project, this will be a disaster for the rest of us in this room. I ask you to uphold and enforce the town's land use and zoning regulations. Stop the Furrows Road Green Rail project. Thank you.
Next speaker will be Daniel Frank.
Steve Berkman, 319 Homestead Road, Bayport. And you'll probably say, so why is he on the Oakdale Historical Society? I grew up in Oakdale. I love the town. And if you've seen the articles in Newsday and the Suffolk County News, you'll see how active we've been in bringing to the attention of the community and the board the condition of what's going on at the Vanderbilt Mansion. I won't say Dowling College because that doesn't exist anymore. There's going to be a sale by the bankruptcy court on March 31st, which means the property will be transferred. If our information is correct, that property is zoned residential. You're probably saying, and you probably know the answer, so why is there a school on that property? We don't need a school. Our concern is the history of our community. We'd like to preserve not the entire college, but the mansion and several other historic buildings. Dowling also purchased a property that you may remember as Bronco Charlie's. If you drive down Montauk Highway, you'll see what Bronco Charlie's looks like now. And I'd like to thank the people from Holbrook for bringing up their condition there. Because what's happened to Bronco Charlie's is similar to what's happened to them. As I said, we put stuff into the paper, and I'd like to say thank you to Steve Flatterman for approaching us at the last meeting and directing us to go to other departments, and we'll get to that. I'd like to thank Angie Carpenter for setting up an appointment with our president. Now's the part where I suck up to you a little.
Usually works.
I do read Newsday on a regular basis, mostly the obits, to make sure that I'm not in there. But one of the things that they've been harping on month after month now is salaries and how much people make, mostly when it comes to the overtime. You guys probably don't apply to the overtime part. I was shocked to see that Angie Carpenter is on the bottom of the salary scale when it comes to town supervisors. I'm sure your job is worth more than that, although I may have some contradictions from some of the people in that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I choose to pass at this time. Thank you, Danielle. William Gamba? Thank you. We have a long agenda, so we do appreciate it. Linda Marecki? Linda Marecki, M-A-E-R-K-I. We'll hold that in case she stepped out. Marion Arms. Sorry, a little late. This isn't made for short people, is it? No. Hi, everyone.
Marianne Almus. I am the president of the Oakdale Historical Society, and I reside at 124 Edgewood Avenue in Oakdale. This is short. On behalf of the 2,194 Town of Islip taxpayers and the Oakdale Historical Society, we respectfully ask the town board to enact a PLP. For those who don't know, a PLP stands for a Planned Landmark Preservation Overlay District, and we would like it on the recently closed Dowling College property in Oakdale. This former Vanderbilt country home, built in 1900 to 1904, designed by renowned Richard Rowland Hunt, is of cultural, historical, and social significance to not only the Oakdale community, but also to the entirety of Long Island, and has absolutely no historical protection. We have a unique ability here, working together, to change that, to put the protection on that. We have preserved Vanderbilt's farm, also known as the Artist Colony, the Bourne Mansion to the east, and Sacticos Manor. It is the responsibility of all of us working together to protect this jewel in the original Gold Coast, the South Coast Gold Coast, before it's too late. And in the words of the famous David Wilmot, why not?
Why not? Linda Marecki, I'll give it one more shot. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board? Hearing none, before I close the public portion, I would just like to address one of the comments made. Reference was made to social media and Facebook and some allegations that were made here that were not true. Unfortunately, we can't control what people may come to say when they step up to a microphone. As distasteful as it may be sometimes to sit here and listen to it, as distasteful as it might be sometimes to sit here and listen to it, it's our job to listen, and we're doing that. But again, we can't control what might be on social media. Just understand that It's interesting too, Newsday originally allowed people to comment on articles anonymously. So they post an article and there might be, 50, 60, 80, hundreds of comments on an article. They changed their policy and required people to put their name on it. And once they did that, you'll see the numbers of comments have dropped precipitously. You'll see a few comments on an article, unless it's something really, egregious. Here's my time. All right, before we go to the agenda, I'd ask our Commissioner of Parks and Public Works, Tom Owens, to please come forward and give us an update on Clemente. Listen.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisors, members of the Town Board, and our Islip residents. I appreciate the opportunity to address you today of an important vote and a milestone on the Roberto Clemente project. As you're undoubtedly aware, item number 25 on today's agenda will authorize the execution of a contract for the replacement of materials at the former soccer fields. 9 total bids were submitted for this project, with Wittrell Brothers Incorporated submitting the lowest responsible bid. The proposal before you today will authorize the town to enter into an agreement with Wittrell for the much-anticipated restoration work at the park. As with all bids and contracts, there are standard procedures that need to be strictly followed in advancement of this phase. The authorization to enter into the formal contract today can be viewed as a tipping point in the overall remediation of the project. With an award today, reopening sections of the park this spring is a realistic goal, and certainly one we want to attain. As we continue moving forward, the next phases of work being done in the park will rejuvenate and reinvigorate. Should the town board vote to approve a contract today, visible progress at the park is within reach. Thank you for the time today, and with the restoration project progressing, as we reach milestones, I will continue to provide updates to the town board and our residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. We will now move to the agenda. Actually, we need a motion to close the public portion.
Motion.
Motion by Councilor Stoddard, second by Councilman Cochran. All those in favor, opposed, public portion will be closed, and we will now move to the agenda. First item on the agenda, the monthly cash summary. Are there any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Councilor Bergen, second by Councilor Mullen. All those in favor? Item 2, the board cleanup.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisor, members of the Town Board.
We can't hear you.
Police process, right through the city town speaks to that, to the activity. Police process, town attorney, town license, 65 Beach, New York. Item number 1 has been withdrawn. Item number 2, to board and clean up the premises located at 25 New York Avenue in Bay Shore. On this vacant and unsecured property, there now exists unsecured windows and doors and evidence of unauthorized entry, high grass, overgrown vegetation, and litter and debris, which constitutes a nuisance and presents a fire, safety, and health hazard. Notice of this hearing was provided to all persons with a property interest in this premises.
Are these vehicles abandoned there? The pictures that we have,
25.
It's like a Toyota Camry, a van.
They would remove the vehicles as well, and they would be taken to our yard.
Okay. Any questions? Hearing none, motion.
Motion.
Motion by Councilor Cochran, second by Councilor Young. All those in favor, opposed, approved.
Number 3, to board up the premises located at 40 Prospect Avenue in Brentwood. On this vacant and unsecured property, there now exists unsecured windows and doors on the first and second floors of the house. This constitutes a nuisance and presents a fire, safety, and health hazard. Notice of this hearing is provided to all known persons with a property interest in this premises.
Any questions? Hearing none, motion.
Motion.
Motion by Councilor Flower, second by Councilor Bergen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, is approved.
Number 4 and 5 have been withdrawn. Number 6, to board the premises located at 146 Benjamin Street in Holbrook. On this vacant and unsecured property with evidence of unauthorized entry, there now exists unsecured windows and doors, a broken electrical meter laying on the ground next to the dwelling. This constitutes a nuisance and presents a fire, safety, and health hazard.
Notice of this hearing was provided to all known persons with a property interest in this premises.
Any questions? Hearing none, motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Conklin.
Second.
Second by Councilman Mullen. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved.
Number 7, to board and clean the premises located at 191 Lake Avenue in Bohemia. On this vacant and unsecured property, there now exists an unsecured rear door, an unsecured shed, high grass, overgrown vegetation, and litter and debris. This constitutes a nuisance and presents a fire safety and health hazard. Notice of this hearing was provided to all known persons with a property interest in this premises. And also just note that this property was the subject of a previous resolution before this board to have the pool secured, and according to our fire marshal's office, the pool is properly secured to our standards.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Klein, second by Councilman Conklin. All those in favor? Opposed? Approved.
Number 8, to clean up the premises located at 222 Claywood Drive in Brentwood. On this vacant property, there now exists 2 abandoned unregistered vehicles, which constitutes a nuisance and presents a fire safety and health hazard. Notice of this hearing was provided to all known persons with a property interest in this premises.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion. Motion approved. Motion by Councilman Bergen, second by Councilman Mullen. All those in favor? Opposed? Approved.
Number 9, to board and clean the premises located at 223 New Hampshire Avenue in Bay Shore. On this vacant and unsecured property with evidence of unauthorized entry, there now exists unsecured windows and doors, high grass, overgrown vegetation, and litter and debris, which constitutes a nuisance and presents a fire safety and health hazard. Notice of this hearing was provided to all known persons with a property interest in this premises.
Any questions? Motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Conklin, second by Councilman Mullen. All those in favor? Opposed? Approved.
Number 10, to board and clean the premises located at 1326 Boston Avenue in Bay Shore. On this vacant and unsecured property, there now exists unsecured windows and doors, an unsecured detached garage, an unsecured semi-in-ground pool, high grass, overgrown vegetation, and litter and debris, which constitutes a nuisance and presents a fire safety and health hazard. Notice of this hearing is provided to all known persons with a property interest in this premises.
Any questions? Hearing none, motion? Motion to approve. Motion by Councilman Bergen, second.
Second.
By Councilman Mullen. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved.
And number 11 was withdrawn.
Thank you very much. We now move to item 3, town board approval of list of names entitled to be reported to the Board of Fire and Disclosure Statement. Any questions? Hearing none. Motion? Motion to approve. Motion by Councilman Bergen. Second. Second by Councilman Klein. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Item 4, town board appointment of members to the Islip Board. We'll make that motion.
Second.
Second by Councilman Conklin. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Next item on the agenda, the meeting of the Town of Islip Foreign Trade Zone. I'll call for motion for this board to convene.
Make a motion.
Motion by Councilman Conklin, second by Councilman Flaherty. The meeting is convened on the present break.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Foreign Trade Zone Board. My name is Brad Hemingway, and I'm the Executive Director of the Town of Islip Foreign Trade Zone Authority, located at 1 Trade Zone Drive in Ronkonkoma. Today I have 2 items for your consideration. The first item being approval of the minutes from November 22nd, 2016, meeting of Islip Foreign Trade Zone Board.
There a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Cochran. Second by Councilman Bergen. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved.
The second item for today is authorization for the Town of Islip Foreign Trade Zone Authority to enter into a professional auditing contract with BST & Co. CPAs LLP for year ending December 31st, 2016.
Any questions? Hearing none, motion? Motion to approve. Motion by Councilman Bergen, second. Second. Second by Councilman Mullen. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved.
That is all I have for today.
Thank you very much. A motion to
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
adjourn by Councilman Cochran, second by Councilman Bergen. Those in favor, the meeting is adjourned. Okay, we will move to item number 6. Option year resolutions. Any questions? Hearing none, motion? Motion by Councilman Flaherty, second. Second. By Councilman Bergen. All those in favor? Opposed? It's approved. Item number 7 is the bid awards. Any questions? Hearing none, motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Cochran, second by Councilman Mullen, all those in favor, opposed, it is approved. Item 8 is the authorization of supervisor to execute a professional service agreement with Nelson Pope and Lewis to provide an update to its ICD planning study consultant services in connection with preparation of zoning code amendments designed to promote development in the industrial corridor district. Any questions? Hearing none, motion. Motion to approve. Motion by Councilman Bergen, second. Second by Councilman Mullen, all those in favor, opposed, it is approved. Item number 9, authorization of the supervisor to enter into agreement with Door Automation Corporation for contract number 2016-03, maintenance and repair of the door system at Long Island Local Airport. Any questions?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Cochran, second. Second by Councilman Bergen, all those in favor, opposed, it is approved. Item number 10, the next item is an authorization of the supervisor to enter into a contract between the town and Firematic Support Company Inc. for equipment repairs and maintenance services at Long Island Local Airport. Any questions? I'll make that motion. Second by Councilman Flyman, all those in favor, opposed, it is approved. Item number 11, acceptance of the FAA Airport Improvement Project grant funding. New York State Suffolk County grant funds and to collect the passenger facility charges for 2017. Any questions? Hearing none, motion.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Cochran, second by Councilman Mullen. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Next item is an authorization of the supervisor to enter into an airline use agreement with Elite Airways to continue to provide airline service at Long Island Rockford Airport. Any questions? Hearing none, motion. Motion by Councilman Flyman, second by Councilman Cochran. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Item 13, authorization of the supervisor to enter into an agreement with the CBA for calendar year 2017, whereby the team will provide certain services related to code enforcement in the designated areas. Any questions? Motion. Motion by Councilman Mullen, second by Councilman Flyman. All those in favor, opposed, it is approved. Next item is an authorization for the town clerk to advertise for public hearing on the transfer of 100 East Adams Street in East Islip under the CBA's rent with option to buy affordable housing program. Any questions?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Cochran, second by Councilman Flyman. All those in favor, opposed, it is approved. Next, item 15, will be Town of Islip Industrial Development Agency. I'll make a motion to convene this board. Motion by Councilman Cochran, second by Councilman Bergen. All those in favor? Opposed? The board meeting is convened, the quorum being present, and welcome employee who has been recognized today for all his years of service.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the agency board. William Maddox, Executive Director, Town of Islip Industrial Development Agency, 40 Nassau Avenue, Islip. First item, we have a long IDA agenda today, and most of it is comprised of requirements under the Public Authority Accountabilities Act, so I will read through those as quickly as possible. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the meeting of December 13th.
Motion by Councilman Cochran, I'll second that. All in favor, opposed, it is approved.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the 2017 meeting schedule.
Motion by Councilman Mullen, second by Councilman Bergen. All those in favor, opposed, the meeting schedule is approved.
Item number 4, resolution appointing officers of the agency.
I'll make that motion, second by Councilman Cochran. All those in favor, opposed, it is approved. Item 5.
Next item is adopting an audit committee and appointing members.
I'll make that motion, second by Councilwoman Bergen. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Item 6.
Adopting a finance committee and appointing members.
I'll make that motion, second by Councilman Cochran. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved.
Adopting a governance committee and appointing members.
I'll make that motion, second by Councilman Flyman. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved.
Adopting a code of ethics policy.
Motion by Councilman Cochran, second by Councilman Mullen. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Item 9.
Adopting an investment policy.
I'll make that motion, second by Councilman Bergen. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Item 10.
Adopting a procurement policy.
I'll make that motion, second by Councilman Bergen. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Item
11. Adopting a conflict of interest policy.
Motion by Councilman Cochran, second by Councilman Flyman. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved.
Number 12. Travel authorization and mileage reimbursement guidelines.
I will make that motion, second by Councilman Bergen. All those in favor? Opposed? Approved.
We're done with the administrative items. Number 13 is the authorization to approve a refinance agreement, modification of the existing loan documents for 45 Crossway East, which is actually a school run for disabled adults by AHRC. It's a long-standing IDA project. They're refinancing.
Motion?
Motion.
Motion by Council Cochran, second by Council Burton. All those in favor, proposed is approved.
Next item on the agenda is a new project. It's an inducement resolution for Big Apple Sign Corporation. They're currently located on Oval Drive in Islandia. The adjacent property, they own the adjacent property, which is actually in Central Islip, not in the village of Islandia. And they will be building a separate building on the Bridge Road property and investing $4.26 million in both their existing facility and in the new building. They currently employ 120 people. I'm sorry, they currently employ 105 people. They propose to employ 120 within 2 years. And they are a manufacturer of storefront display items.
Any questions? Motion? Motion by Council Bergen, second. Second. By Council Mullen. All those in favor? Opposed is approved.
The next item is also an inducement resolution. It's a new project for Thorough Metal Products. They're currently located on Grand Boulevard in Brentwood. They're proposing to purchase not an adjoining building, but a nearby building, also on Grand Boulevard. Thorough is a contract manufacturer of precision component parts used in aircrafts, ATMs, automobile roof systems, food processing equipment. They have a wide variety of customer base. They are proposing to invest more than $4 million in their 2 properties. They currently employ 55, and they will be creating 6 additional employees.
Any questions?
Motion approved.
Motion by Council Cochran, second by Council Flannery. All those in favor? Opposed is approved.
And the last item on the agenda is an inducement resolution, a new project called Keneal Bay LLC. This is in furtherance of the Town of Islip's policy and the agency's policy on incentivizing people to redevelop in the downtown corridors. This project is located at 98 Carlton Avenue in Central Islip. There's currently a 1-story building on the site. It is vacant, and the owner will be fixing up the first story and putting a second story on. There'll be office space and/or retail down below and apartments above. It's a very small project for an IDA, but again, in furtherance of our policy to incentivize redevelopment in downtown corridors.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, motion?
Motion.
By Council Flannery, second. By Council Cochran. All those in favor? Opposed is approved. And that's it.
No other business to come before the agency at this time.
Great. Hearing no further business before the agency, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Council Bergen, second. Second. By Council Mullen, all in favor. Opposed, the Town of Islip Town Agency Board is hereby adjourned. Thank you very much. And now we go to, that is the IDA that we just,
Correct.
just want to correct that for the record. And we now go to item 16, which is a meeting with the Economic Development Corporation.
Make a motion.
Motion to convene the meeting by Council Cochran, second by Council Flannery. All those in favor of this meeting is convened with the quorum being present.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the agency board, William Maddox, 40 Nassau Avenue, Executive Director of the Economic Development Corporation. This meeting is 100% administrative, so once again, I will get through all of these items as quickly as possible. First of the items is the approval of the minutes of the December 13th.
Motion by Council Bergen, second by Council Flannery. Minutes are approved.
Next item, the meeting schedule for 2017.
Motion.
Motion by Council Cochran, second by Council Flannery. All those in favor, opposed, meeting schedule is approved.
Next is appointing officers.
Motion, second by Council Bergen. All those in favor, opposed, it is approved.
Number 5 is the audit committee.
Motion, I will make that motion.
Second.
Audit Committee, second by Councilman Flannery, since you're on the audit committee.
Number 6 is the finance committee.
Finance Committee, I'll make that motion, second by Councilman Cochran. All
Number
those in
7.
favor, opposed, is approved. 7,
7 is the governance committee.
I'll make that motion, and second by Councilman Flaherty. All those in favor, opposed, it is approved.
Number 8 is the Code of Ethics Policy.
Motion by Councilman Cochran, second by Councilman Flaherty. All those in favor, opposed, it is approved.
Number 9 is the Investment Policy.
I'll make that motion, second by Councilman Flaherty. All those in favor, opposed, it is approved. Item 10,
Procurement Policy.
motion by Councilman Cochran, second by Councilman Flaherty. All those in favor, opposed, it is approved.
Number 11 is Travel Authorization and Mileage Reimbursement.
Motion by Councilman Flaherty, second by Councilman Mullin. All those in favor, opposed, it is approved. Any other business?
No other items coming
Hearing
forward.
none, we'll make a motion to adjourn the Economic Development Corporation. Motion by Councilman Bergen, second by Councilman Mullin. All those in favor, opposed, the meeting is adjourned. Okay, we will now move to item 17, which is the authorization to discuss and enter into various agreements and programs to be held throughout the town of Islip to be funded by either registration fees or grant funds. Any questions? Hearing none, motion. Motion by Councilman Cochran, second. By Councilman Flaherty. All those in favor, opposed, it is approved. Next item, authorization to supervise and enter into agreement with South Bay Category Cruises to provide full-service sunset dinner cruises on Great South Bay. Any questions? Hearing none, motion by Councilman Flaherty, second by Councilman Bergen. All those in favor, opposed, it is approved. Item 19, authorization to supervise and apply for and enter into agreement with the Suffolk County Office of Aging for the purpose of providing continuing funding for a residential repair program. Any questions? Hearing none, motion. Motion by Councilman Mullin, second by Councilman Cochran. All those in favor, opposed, it is approved. Next, item number 20, authorization to supervise to execute any and all necessary paperwork with the New York State Department of Transportation in connection with the project funded by the multimodal funding for road and drainage improvements in Bay Shore. Motion by Councilman Cochran, second by Councilman Flaherty. All those in favor, opposed, it is approved.
Just one question.
Sure.
Yeah, my name is the town attorney. I had mine originally West Islip. Was that corrected in the other sheets? Yeah, it was correct. Okay, thank you.
Next item on the agenda, the appointments of marriage or assisting towns. Any question, motion? By Councilman Cochran, second by Councilman Mullin. All those in favor, opposed, it is approved. We now go to item 22, which is the special events, parades, and other great items to runs. Any questions? Hearing none, motion? Motion. Motion by Councilman Bergen, second by Councilman Mullin. All those in favor, opposed, it is approved. And congratulations, we had an event last Saturday that some of you participated in. You were there. And our town attorney ran. Did you finish?
I did finish. That's cool. That would be embarrassing. That's cool.
Next item, 23, an authorization for the town clerk to advertise for public hearing to consider amending chapter 68 entitled zoning. Any questions?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Cochran, second by Councilman Flaherty. All those in favor, opposed, it is approved. Next item, 24, approval of the schedule change of zoning meeting dates. Any questions? Hearing none, motion. Motion by Councilman Bergen, second by Councilman Mullin. All those in favor, opposed, it is approved. Next item, 25. Is an authorization for the supervisor to enter into a contract with Trell Brothers, Inc. for contract DPD 516 material replacement at the former soccer field at Roberto Clemente Park, Riverview. I can tell you how delighted we are to finally be at this stage. It took an awful lot of hard work to get there. Talk about crossing T's and dotting I's and red tape and everything else that had to be done. Working with the DEC, although they were most cooperative, and just really want to take this opportunity. Unfortunately, Nelson is not here, but to thank the community for their patience. This certainly was out of the control of anyone sitting up here, but we did what we could to move it forward. So I'm delighted that this is finally happening, and would ask for a motion. Motion by Councilor Flaherty, second by Councilman Bergen. All those in favor, opposed, and approved. Next item is the approval of issuing payment to PW Gross Consultant for providing professional services and potential options for the relocation of their own Hockham Hub sewer main in the amount of $7,121.56. All those in favor? Motion by Councilman Cochran, second I'll second that motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Is approved. Item 27, authorization for the supervisor to enter into a personal service agreement with Michael Sininsky to provide services and updates to the assessor's office software programs during conversion to a new operating platform known as Alpha 5 operating system. Any questions? Hearing on motion. Motion by
Second.
Councilman Bergen, second by Councilman Cochran. All those in favor? Opposed? Is approved. Item 28, acceptance of an easement for the purpose of maintenance, repair, inspection, and replacement of street lighting to be installed at property located at 26 Wicks Road in Brentwood. Any questions? Hearing on motion. Motion by Councilman Rowland, second by Councilman Flannery. All those in favor? Opposed? Is approved. Next item is an authorization for the supervisor to enter into an agreement with Rockwood Risk Management Associates to provide third-party administrative services for the town's general and auto liability claims. Any questions? Hearing none.